أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين شفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين وأصحابه المنتجبين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. These are the days of the great illustrious lady of ours, and I wish to say a few words regarding this great personality. The Quran says قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. Now here the mawadda of the qurba has been made a means of reward, repayment to the Prophet. This needs to be understood accurately, that the Prophet can only be rewarded in a fashion that the Prophet's mission gains prominence, increases, has more success. Otherwise, how else do you reward the Prophet? He is invested in his cause. The only reward befitting the Prophet is the furtherance and advancement of his cause. He is the one who abandons the riches of this world, the kingdom of this world, and gives himself instead to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His reward is God. And his reward is God through his cause of the betterment of the community. So obviously the most befitting reward you can give to a man like that has to be in sync with his own cause and in furthering his cause. So mawadda fil qurba, therefore, if it is a reward for the Prophet, would imply that mawadda fil qurba is furthering the cause of the Prophet. If understood this way, if we have this deep-seated love with the family of the Prophet, then this deep-seated love should bring about purity within the hearts, enlightenment of the hearts, God focus within the hearts. It should bring about reformation of the human community, and it should bring about a befitting destiny for humanity at large. This would mean mawadda fil qurba, and that is what the Prophet was actually asking for, because in another place the Quran says that he has not made any recompense necessary upon you but for those of you who wish to take their path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the mawadda fil qurba, which is a reward for the Prophet, is in turn our means to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So at the same time as we are supposed to be emotionally invested within the qurba, emotionally love them, have attachment with them, we are supposed to give ourselves over to them. Giving ourselves over to them means to lose ourselves in them, in what they stood for. They stood for goodness, they stood for piety, they stood for righteousness. Mawadda fil qurba is supposed to bring about all these lofty human traits within us. The other thing that we have within us is the notion of seeking means to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and wasila. Without a shred of doubt, the Prophet and his family are wasila and means to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we need to understand this very clearly. Unlike the way in which we side with parties in this world, where we say, I associate myself to this group as opposed to that group, in which case this association is a very arbitrary one, because we will defend this group against the other group without necessarily looking into the righteousness of the group to which we belong. We might react. Wasila with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works very, very differently. Mine and your purpose in existence is to arrive at the completion of our own existence. An apple, seed of an apple tree, its completion is in becoming an apple tree. Its purpose is invested within itself. Our purpose is within our individual selves and our community. Our utmost success is that we come to the completion of our humanity or whatever is vested within us. Means to Allah means anything that assists in completing our potential from within. Anything that assists me to come to a stage of godliness where I have attained salvation. So wasila actually means not for us to superficially belong to somebody, but to be invested in that means wholeheartedly, because that means brings out the best in us and brings us towards our completion. So wasila in itself will require us to understand the wasila and to emulate it, to give ourselves to the wasila, which then requires us to forego our own right of discretion beyond the wasila, whereas the wasila becomes the point of our surrender. So if the Prophet is my wasila to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then in that case, the example of the Prophet is the one I'm led through. I surrender to the example of the Prophet and give myself over to the Prophet. It's like saying the Quran. When we pray that dua, oh Allah, make this Quran a wasila for me to come to you. Quran in the shelf is not really a wasila. Quran kept on a shelf is not really a wasila. Me saying that I belong to the group that recognizes the Quran as the word of God and final revelation is not necessarily being a wasila. Me reading the Quran in a language that is alien, a foreign, does not make it into a wasila. Me reading the Quran and understanding its content may not necessarily be a wasila. But for me to read the Quran, to comprehend it, and to be nurtured by it, and to come to the fullness of my existence, and to reach my purpose, that is when Quran becomes a wasila. So the meaning of wasila is to look at that example and allow that example to bring the best out in us. In that way, most accurately, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Ali Muhammad alayhi wasallam are our wasila to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we gave ourselves to them and they nurture our souls from within, because we allow it through this wholesome surrender to this wasila, and they bring us to that great rank of godliness from within ourselves, and we constitute success through the wasila. Now there's one more thing that needs to be said here before we finish this part of the khutbah, that in the case of human wasila, as with the Quran, but maybe with the human wasila it's easier to explain. But to be honest with you, it works with the Quran, with the mosque, with the Kaaba, with everything. There needs to be a level of emotional investment. You see, we sometimes over-rationalize things. We say that we have to rationally appreciate and understand their example. It is true, I agree. But rationally, being appealed by somebody or something may not bring about the core investment from within ourselves. That investment of the self truly comes from attachment, bonding, and love. We will see that when we fall in love with somebody, we are invested in them. So if somebody at a rational level is impeccable, and we begin to study their example, their beautiful human example, and we fall in love with them at a personal level, then there is a real wasila. That level of emotional attachment coupled with rational understanding gives way to a state of spirituality, gives way for godliness. If you look at the people who are around these beautiful personalities in the time, people like Salman, Abu Dhar, they were emotionally invested in the Prophet as well. Beyond their rational understanding and appreciation of the Prophet, they were emotionally invested in the Prophet. And that's why they were so spiritually refined and enlightened. If you look at the people around Imam Hussein, Salamullah alayhi, they were emotionally attached with Imam Hussein. They understood right from wrong very clearly. But beyond that, when you listen to their poetry on the day of Ashura, you can see this personal belonging to Hussein ibn Ali that they had. They would say, if we were cut 1,000 times, we would wish from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be revived 1,000 times over. Rational judgments do not bring about such passionate belonging. This passionate belonging comes from emotional attachment. And this is then something that leads to the opening of the spiritual doors and making us spiritual. So here it is, my final line. That when we talk about Ali Muhammad and the queen of Ali Muhammad and the queen of mankind and of all women, Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha, mawadda in relation to her and wasila in relation to her requires us to go beyond the texts that attribute all the supreme qualities to her and to personally study her example and become emotionally and rationally invested in her. Because we will see she is a caring mother. She cares for the community. She is invested in a message to the extent of sacrificing herself for it, for the betterment of all. We will see her as a person who cares for us who are yet to take birth. From the excessive narrations that we have, that she would pray for the people that are to come. And when we have this beautiful connection with her as children have to their mother, it is something that is potent, nurturing. It nurtures us from within. And as we run to the laps of our mothers and we find security therein and comfort, and that's godly security and godly comfort through the lap of a mother, we will find that she is the mother of all mothers. And as our elders have said to us, that before embarking on an important mission, go to your mothers, and if they are not alive, then go to their graves and seek Allah's favors through them. This is what the love of this great mother is supposed to do. It's supposed to give comfort to the broken hearts. It's supposed to encourage us to become better. It's supposed to empower us to try and do some good. And of course, if she is the wasila, then she brings about the completion in the human soul in terms of it arriving at its status of godliness. And there is no doubt whatsoever that Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that a person is raised with the one he loves. A person is raised with the one he loves. If you are in love with a piece of stone, he said, you will be raised with it. And to be quite honest with you, the utmost success would be to be raised in the ranks of Bibi Fatima, the day of Qiyamah. And to have her intercession on that day. That she says that he lived by my means to become godly. O Lord, through me complete his light. Can we just pause here and pray Surah Fatiha for all our dear marhumin who are no longer with us? May Allah, for the sake of Lady Fatima, forego their sins and elevate them in their ranks. Al-Fatiha. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Amma ba'd, assalamu alaykum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The khutbah of Lady Fatima salamullah alayha, and as so wonderfully pointed out and elaborated upon by Dr. Ali Raza Bojani last year, I'm going to pick on a point that he made. And he said in this khutbah, at one point, the illustrious lady states that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made our leadership, or the leaders from our progeny, Aimma, or our leadership, a means for the preservation of the unity of the Muslims or the Ummah. Now here we can begin to understand that if she is the point of love, and if she is the point which leads us to Allah and our completion, then she has to be emulated in her own objective, in what she was invested in. So if she is contending against the first Khalifa, that our leadership was a means for the preservation of the unity of the Ummah, she is actually somewhat implying that going away from us means sectarianism, fragmentation of the whole Ummah. But if you were to stay with us, there would be preservation of its unity. If this is the case, then Janab Fatima as a wasila would make it incumbent upon the community who follows her as their mother, as their role model, to try and preserve the unity of the community and not compromise in that. She can never be made a point of division of the community, sectarian strife, condemning each other, for she stands against it herself. And what good would Fatima salamullah alayha find in people in her name who are divided, when she is complaining that what might happen at that point when she was faced with that situation would divide the community? So wasila with Fatima salamullah alayha also means for us to ponder over her words, what she has said, what she meant. Me and you here are with short lease of life. They're going to finish very quickly. All these feuds that we have, fights that we are having, this unity will become a calamity upon us when we open our eyes in the next world and we see that the whole opportunity of life was for us to bring about unity and peaceful, harmonious coexistence. And then, when we are raised with those that we love, and they say to us, actually you did not emulate us. You knew deep within your own souls that the book of God is saying to you, "O Muslims, do not be divided amongst yourselves." That's the book of God. How can any of the preachers of the book of God be contrary to what they were preaching? Especially the Prophet's family, the people who are giving out the book of God. So it's an invitation for us. The days of this beautiful lady are an invitation for us to introspect, to see that, look, are we truly upholding the dictates of mawadda, deep-seated belonging to this mother of ours, and personal attachment and love to the extent that I give myself over to her and get invested in her cause? Am I truly upholding her as a wasila when I am not abiding by what she was committed to? So it's a beautiful invitation for all of us to introspect slightly and to see how we can be better than what we are. A final word before I say finish, and that is that the Ahlul Bayt, in line with the example of the Prophet, cared for the ummah to the extent that they said that the person who sleeps without the care of ummah is not one of them. Yes. Now, although we can't do much in these days, but there are people in Yemen, you are seeing the crisis, yes? Starving. No infrastructure left. You can see the malnourished children. I know there is a famine in Africa as well. In Yemen, whatever we can do, be proactive, do something for them. Yes? Not only in order to allay the guilt that we might have inside, but for genuine concern and love, because that is what that mawadda and that wasila dictates from us. We can ask around and see what we can do, and if nobody's doing anything that we feel is enough to help those poor souls, then maybe we can initiate things ourselves in the name of this illustrious lady and pay a tribute to her through those actions. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Muhammadin al-Mustafa wa ala Ali al-Murtada wa ala Fatimah al-Zahra wa ala al-Hasan al-Mujtaba